Have you ever thought to yourself, man, these new and fancy flagship phones all look pretty good, but I just don't see myself spending $1,000 on a smartphone? Well then, the brand new Poco M4 Pro might just be what you're searching for. An upgrade to the Poco M3 Pro, this new and improved device is sure to impress those who are looking for the combo of decent specs and a good price. The M series is actually the cheapest series of this budget brand, so there is no doubt that this phone will also be a bargain. The motto of the Poco M4 Pro is power up your fun, and it's time to see just how much power this gadget holds. If you like our reviews and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel to guarantee you don't miss our newest videos. Without further ado, let the facts speak. The Poco M4 Pro has a 90Hz 6.6-inch IPS display, which is quite good considering the price of the phone in general. The display is protected by Gorilla Glass 3 with native damage resistance. The videos are quite smooth, and the touch reaction while scrolling will definitely be a positive experience for the user. Like similar new phones, you can lower the refresh rate to 60Hz to preserve the battery. The brightness is a bit low for my liking, which makes the screen hard to see under the bright sunlight. However, there are no issues in an indoor setting. There are a few options to change the color scheme, and you can decide on which one you like based on your preferences for contrast and brightness while you're looking at pictures, watching a movie, or scrolling through social media. It's time to take a look at the camera of the Poco M4 Pro, and to be able to give you a better perspective, we will be comparing it to the camera of the Samsung S21. The main camera is 50 megapixels and has an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera to help with those expanded shots and videos. This is an example photo of a church in central Berlin, taken in the ultra wide setting. The Samsung S21 looks a bit brighter and more detailed than the Poco M4 Pro. However, both pictures look decent overall. In the wide setting, however, the Poco M4 Pro seems to be having some issues with focus and clarity. As you can see in the recording, the camera is not accurately focusing on the building and is needing more than one tap on the screen to produce satisfactory results. Now, on to the zoom. At 2x, it is not the best quality, but is still better than expected. There's a slight blur towards the top when compared to the sharp imaging of the Samsung S21. This is a picture of me, and the most obvious issue with the Poco M4 Pro is the lack of detail on my jacket. The bokeh effect, which is the blur in the background, is present in both pictures, but the blur applied by the Samsung S21 has a more natural look to it. Here's a selfie taken with the front camera of these phones, and I must say that both pictures look good. There's a bit of extra sharpness added by the Poco M4 Pro that you can see when you look at my beard and my hair. It isn't good or bad, but it's up to the preference of the user. In this last photo, the lack of brightness is apparent when it comes to live colors like gold and green. The Samsung S21 has a natural look, whereas the Poco M4 Pro is lacking a little in that regard. Unfortunately, the quality of the main camera is not the best. Also, electronic image stabilization can only be used when recording in 1080p 30fps. Photos are mainly good quality if you have decent lighting conditions, but there are focus and detail issues in general. All in all, the Poco M4 Pro's camera is still decent when the price performance is taken into account. Its dimensions are pretty much the same as its predecessor, the Poco M3 Pro. The only difference is that the newer version is slightly larger and 5 grams heavier. Not exactly the thinnest or lightest phone we reviewed, but the size is no surprise to us since the phone has quite a big battery. From the front, it looks similar to other Android phones with the front camera cut out on the top of the display. On the back, we have the classic big Poco branding, although it's not as big when compared to some of its siblings. The rear camera bump is on the top left corner, hosting a dual camera setup, which we will talk about more later on. In our opinion, there were some interesting choices made regarding the design. There are two buttons, one with a red dot and the other saying AI, that don't seem to be of any use. The bump is kind of big, and the reason for this might be that it looks a lot like a rebranded version of a phone by Poco's sister brand Redmi that has recently been announced, the Xiaomi Redmi Note 11. On the plus side, the camera module is quite flat, so you're able to set the phone down properly without any hassle or fear of damaging the phone. The Poco M4 Pro is available in 3 different color variants. The first one is the company's signature color, Poco Yellow. Then there's a cool blue color, and lastly, Power Black, which is the one we're reviewing in this video. It looks rather gray than black, to be honest, but looks quite nice overall. The plastic back has a matte finish to it that fends off fingerprints for the most part, and is quite easy to wipe and clean without leaving any marks. The phone being plastic is not a negative in any way, and it feels quite sturdy and is comfortable to hold. On the right side, we have the volume control buttons, and below that, the home button with an integrated fingerprint scanner. Both of these are made out of plastic. The fingerprint reader is very accurate, and the phone is instantly unlocked. Also, its placement is pretty comfortable. On the other side, we have the dual nano SIM tray, which means you can equip your phone either with two 5G SIM cards or with a SIM card and a micro SD. So yes, the storage is expandable up to a total of 1 terabyte. On the bottom, there is a classic USB 2.0 Type-C port, which is of course the expected charging method with the newer Android smartphones. There is also a microphone, one of 2 loudspeakers, and a 3.55 headphone jack, which will be very pleasing to see to those who prefer listening to music the traditional way. They've also included an FM radio in the phone. While most won't use it, it can still be written down as an extra. On the top side, we have an infrared transmitter, a secondary mic for noise cancellation and calls, and the top port speaker. Overall, we think that the Poco M4 Pro looks pretty good design-wise and doesn't feel like a budget phone at all. A minor criticism could be made about the unnecessarily big camera bump. Now we'll take a brief look at the performance of the Poco M4 Pro. There are 2 versions of this phone. One version has a 4GB RAM with 64GB of storage, and the other version is slightly upgraded at 6GB of RAM with 128GB of storage. The one we're currently testing is the latter with the 6GB of RAM. As you've most likely seen in our previous videos, we prefer to be able to tell you just how well a phone runs in different circumstances. The first test will be 3DMark's Wildlife Extreme, which benchmarks the CPU and the GPU of the device. This is helpful to see how viable your system is for gaming, image processing, and other demanding tasks. For you to have a better understanding of what these values mean, we will be applying the same test to the Google Pixel 6 to see where the Poco M4 Pro stands. The second test will be with Geekbench, which uses similar tech for the benchmarks to test the performance of your device. Lastly, we have Antutu, which also has its own benchmark algorithm and gives us data to compare the performance of the phones. All in all, the performance of the Poco M4 Pro is not too shabby. The Google Pixel 6 had a significantly better score when it came down to the tests run by Antutu and 3DMark, but the Geekbench scores were actually quite similar, with the Poco M4 Pro even passing the Google Pixel 6 in the single core test. The Poco M4 Pro has a whopping battery of 5000 mAh, which is sure to get you through the whole day. Even with constant and heavy use, it is likely that the Poco M4 Pro will not need to be recharged until the day is over. The phone also has 33 watts Pro Fast charging enabled, with the charger included in the box, which is quite nice for this price. In situations where your phone is dead or running out of battery, a few minutes of charging can ensure that you are able to keep using your phone for a couple of more hours. In conclusion, the Poco M4 Pro gives great value for the price, which starts at 199 euros. It is a great choice for individuals who want a decent phone without having to spend extreme amounts of money. Even though the camera is not the best in situations where the lighting isn't adequate and the image stabilization could have been optimized better, this is to be expected with phone cameras at this price range. Everything else looks and feels pretty good to us, and price performance wise, we can easily say that this is a solid phone for all your daily needs. If this review has caught your interest, we've left a link below in the description for you with a discounted price for the Poco M4 Pro. Thank you for watching this review, and please drop a like and subscribe to our channel to make sure you don't miss out on our new reviews. Take care and see you in the next video.